So this is a brief guide on how to install the magnets into your case. Before we get started, just some things you'll need. I recommend the JB Weld as your adhesive. I've used the Crazy Glue before, but I find that it's not quite thick enough to do a good job of holding the magnets in place and assuring that they'll be locked in place throughout the use. So you can try it, but I really recommend this stuff because once it hardens, the magnets aren't coming out. You'll also need some toothpicks. You don't quite need this many, but some will definitely be useful. A magnetic knife, or not a magnetic knife, but a steel knife, just so that you can use it to insert the magnets. A Sharpie, some paper towels, and some water. So the first thing we'll do is we'll separate the magnets into groups of 2, and then we'll use our Sharpie here to identify the top surfaces on each magnet. So you don't need to do a huge dot or anything, or a huge mark, but you definitely just want to make a small black dot that you'll be able to notice later. And then you want to do that on both sides of the groups of 2. So then you'll have each magnet with a single black dot on one side and a clean surface, no dots at all on the other side. So, okay, once all 4 sets of 2 magnets are marked, the next thing you want to do is you want to kind of prepare how you're going to want to lay the magnets down. Because you're essentially going to have a setup similar to this, with the magnets being glued at the end, of course. You want to make sure that this magnet actually goes into its corresponding hole in both sides of the case. So if you set it up like here, where you have the slots kind of facing up top, what I like to do is kind of have these magnets here. So this magnet will go into this hole and this hole, this magnet, this hole, this magnet here, and this one and that one, and this one and this one and that one. It's very important that you keep track of which magnet goes in which hole, because while you have 2 clean surface magnets facing similar sides on one group, the same surface might be meant to adhere to a different magnet in another group. So it's very important that you do keep track of which magnets go to, belong to which sets. So okay. Once you kind of have your mental game plan on where you're going to lay out the magnets, we'll want to begin mixing the adhesives. So again, I recommend this stuff over the Crazy Glue, because although it is a little harder to work with, you'll notice it's thicker. It does a much stronger bond. This JB Weld stuff is meant to bond metallics together, which is exactly what we're doing here. So this stuff is really strong. The Crazy Glue works, but if you do use Crazy Glue, you have to be very, very generous in how much Crazy Glue you apply into each hole. You might have to re-glue things a couple times before they really stick permanently. So you'll notice I'm only doing small dabs of the JB Weld, and that is because it's going to harden pretty quickly, so I'll be remixing several times. But once you do one part of each, the black and the red, you mix them together and you'll end up with this gray color. So now that it's well mixed, again we have our black dots here. So I'm going to install this first magnet in this hole, and this hole is first group. And again, the black dots are going to go facing downward into the glue. So basically the black dots are going to get the glue. And again, this will assure that the poles are facing the right directions. You each time we install the magnet. So you can put a little bit on the bottom of the magnet, or you can put it directly in the hole. Either is up to you. You do want to be careful not to put in way too much into the hole, otherwise it'll seep out. But if it does, it's not too big of a deal because we can clean it up later. That's what the napkins and the water is for. So you can see here, place the first one in. I'm going to go ahead and push it down, and you're going to have seepage come out on the other side. So from here, we'll go through, dip the napkin in a little bit of water, shake out the excess. You just want a damp napkin, and we just wipe some of the excess off and clean it up a little bit. Again, just take your time, trying to do a good job here, so there's no rush. So you'll see that magnet's in place. Sometimes adhesive or the glue will get stuck under the magnet and kind of angle it, so make sure you kind of press on it and just kind of make sure the magnet's sitting relatively flat. So we'll go ahead and try not to make a giant mess here. We'll go ahead and glue the corresponding hole. So again, make sure that these slots here line up to those sections there, so that when they sit together, you end up with these two faces mating with each other, and you have that cut out there. The case will not work like that, as you can see. So that's a very important detail. So again, the case is going to close like this, right? So we want this magnet to line up with that magnet. So one last thing is, once you have all the magnets secured and in place, it's a good idea to make sure they sit relatively flat. If you can see this far one here, you can see it's pretty flush with the bottom of the case. So again, make sure it's sitting flat and they're not cockeyed at all. Just go ahead and check each one on both sides of the case. While the glue is soft, you can kind of touch it with your fingers or with a toothpick to kind of make sure they're properly in place and properly flat.